Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Warriors Stock Report. Tim Bontemps, senior writer for ESPN in New York. Anthony Slater, senior writer for ESPN in San Antonio. Slater, there were some weird games. Or Buddy Brian Windhurst likes to say there are no weird games. There's just NBA games. I sometimes like to say there's weird games. We saw the Cleveland Cavaliers win with half a team in Miami tonight. We saw some other weird games,
Were you at
but
MSG?
I was at MSG where the
Magic popped them, right?
Magic popped the Knicks. Jalen Brunson left in a walking boot. We'll see what happens there. The Hawks beat the Kings, your Kings, by about 1 trillion. There's a lot
What a
of
week
stuff.
for the Kings. What a week for the Kings. We
What a
could
week
maybe
for
do
the
that
Kings.
on the backside of the pod.
Well, listen. Well, no, we're not going to be talking about the Kings. They're a disaster. That's
Remember
the end.
last time we did a nice segment last
That's
time.
the end.
Give me
That's the end of
mine.
the Kings deserve nothing more than they're a disaster. But the
Trade deadline.
segue, the segue is, I thought we were going to be talking about the disaster that is the Golden State Warriors because they have had a very rough week. And then on Wednesday, 24 hours after they're in Oklahoma City, they get annihilated by the Thunder, who then came out the next night, tonight, and annihilated the Lakers. Maybe the Thunder are just way better than everybody else. But setting that aside for a minute, it looked like the sky was falling. There was post-game comments. There was a lot of drama, per usual. You're on TV, hustling to San Antonio, do TV this afternoon, but the sky is falling around Golden State. And then what happens? Steph Curry has 46. The Warriors beat the Spurs on the second night of a back-to-back and maybe have their best game of the season. So I guess I was sure we were going to be talking about a stock down across the board for Golden State based off where things were this morning. But I would just like you to talk about what the last 30 hours have been like because it's been a definitional roller coaster.
Stock up on Steph Curry's immune system at this point. It's
I would
improving,
say so.
which, in my opinion, has been the most important aspect of this Jekyll and Hyde open to the season for them. Like, he was really fresh coming out of the preseason. He looked good. He scored 42 in a win over the Nuggets. Look at his numbers when they go 4-1. And then he was terrible in the Milwaukee Indy games. And then he got a really bad sickness. And then he missed 3 games. And then he came back and was like gassing and huffing and puffing in that Thunder game. Had 20 minutes, 5 fouls,
There's probably not a single worse team to play in the league if you're not feeling great or if you're coming off an injury that having
you're
to
a
try
little,
to play his
your
Thunder
dribble's a
team.
little loose or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah. Also, by the way, I mean, side note, committed the first flagrant foul of his 17-year career. It was it was a stunning stat to me, but and to him, talking to him post game tonight actually. But to my point, like, I think there are a lot of schematic stuff and mindset stuff that has led to the whole 4-1 to 6-6. But also, it was just like Steph Curry, their best player, was awesome, and they got off to a hot start. Steph Curry completely faded and then disappeared for 3 games, and they tanked, basically. But he was back. He was himself tonight. This was the 43rd, 40th point game since he's turned 30. That's just one fewer than Michael Jordan. It was like the 43rd time he's had a 20-point quarter. He had a 22 tonight, I believe, in the third, which, broke it open. They actually went down 28-14. It looked like it was ugly with snowballing into uglier. But they turned it around in the second half. You mentioned it, and as far as the crisis mode of the Warriors, which we can get into the specifics of it. I asked Steph post game, like 1 to 10. We can rank these Warriors crises because we've been doing this a decade or longer with them. And he said 4, solid 4 was the last 24 hours, which I told him, I was like, I honestly thought he was going to go lower because it's the 13th game of the season. It's not that big a deal what's happening around them. But I was like, 4 is like, that's something. It's a speed bump.
It's something because the Western Conference is not for the faint of heart, right? And you can't have a stretch like they've had and drop several games that they could have and should have won and not have that cost you later on. When you have the Spurs getting off to a good start, when you have the Lakers getting off to a good start, you have Minnesota and Houston and Denver. I mean, Jokic had 55 in about 12 minutes tonight. The Thunder are obviously going to be the number 1 seed, barring something crazy. Like, to get into the top 6, which, as we've talked about a lot, Golden State needs to get into the top 6 to avoid the play-in, to get the break, to try to give themselves a chance to make a run.
I think you can almost forget avoiding the play-in now, avoiding the Thunder and Nuggets, right? Because that is avoiding the play-in
Well,
is avoiding the Thunder.
that's right. I mean, certainly I would guess they're going to be the top two seeds, probably in that order, Thunder and then Nuggets, just based off the way things look early. But yes, for many reasons, staying in the top six is imperative. And look, that's one of the reasons why this game could wind up being massive. Like, this was a game, this is a definitional schedule loss. We talked about it last week. We weren't sure the Warriors were going to play their guys
They weren't
in this game.
By the way, they weren't. And, Steve Kerr kind of used the excuse of, hey, look, they all played 20 minutes, right? They didn't play in the fourth quarter. It was a blowout. And that's true. It's not like they went, pedal to the metal to try to steal that Thunder game. They got blown out of the building. But I'm telling you, they played that game because if you're Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler and you're coming out and calling out your teammates and then saying, hey, I'm going to ask out of work the next day. Like, no, there was team meetings at the hotel. There was film sessions. There was strategic changes to what they were doing, which we'll get into. You can't implement that and be like, but we're going to take tonight off. So they weren't going to play this game.
Well, and because they got so completely demolished against the Thunder, they do play it and they have maybe their best game of the year. So let's get to some of the stuff that changed today. Second, let's start with the game in OKC. I think a lot of teams are going to go to OKC and have games like this year. I've been saying since the summer, the Thunder remind me of the 2015-16 Warriors, which we both saw in one of the best series of all time, in that Warriors-Thunder 7-game series that we covered from start to finish. And the reason I say that is because they came into the season after winning the title and had a lot of people still skeptical of them. And they came out and that team won 24 in a row. This team could go 24-1 and is just demolishing people. But I was like, me being a couple thousand miles away, I was like, that's a bad loss. The Thunder are awesome. Steph's coming back. Ho hum. Then I read the quotes after the game and I was like, oh, okay, there's some more going on here. So if you could, I would be curious sort of what your take is on where the team was coming out of that game, leading into these adjustments, lineup changes, everything else that happened, and sort of what the overall mood is even after this game today.
Yeah, I mean, it had been leading up to that Thunder game, and I do think there was kind of an internal hope that they would show some competitiveness in that game. They had been blown out by the Nuggets, and look, the Thunder didn't have Lou Dort. They didn't have Jalen Williams.
The Thunder don't have several players, and they're just crushing everyone. The second night of a back-to-back tonight, they were up by 30-something in the first half on the Lakers, who were really good and rested. Like, they're awesome.
I would just say going into the game, there was that feeling from the Warriors, like, this is going to be a good competitive game. And even from, like, some people on the Thunder side, Warriors always play as well. They're going to bring their fastball.
Yeah.
I guess you probably underestimated the state of Steph and how, rusty he was going to be coming out of that, but also, the structural and spacing problems, which we've been talking about, this lineup that had kind of been working early in the season, especially the way Kuminga was playing in the first 5 or so games. But we all still kind of knew, they were even admitting that, it could, be an issue, especially against the better teams, especially against a team that it just hounds your dribble. And that was just like kind of the spotlight final version of what had been a struggle over the previous several games. Heavy turnovers. Kuminga had 5 himself. I think Trace Jackson-Davis came off the bench and had 5 in like 12 minutes. Jimmy Butler was mad at himself about a couple. And obviously, Draymond used it as a moment to call the team out very publicly, which, I don't know. You look back on it now and go, it woke them up. I don't know. But it certainly raised the temperature.
Today on Warriors Nation News, we need to talk about something that feels like a turning point in the Golden State season. And I'm not talking about Steph Curry's explosion in San Antonio, or Draymond Green putting Victor Wembanyama inside a defensive prison that only Draymond knows how to build. No, today is bigger than that. Today is the day the Golden State Warriors officially show the NBA that they are not fading away, they are not done, and they are not letting this season slip into mediocrity. Because the Warriors have made the exact type of move championship cores make when they still believe in themselves. They went out and acquired Herb Jones. Yes, Herb Jones is now a Golden State Warrior, and if you understand basketball at a high level, if you truly understand what wins in April, May, and June, then you know this move changes everything. And the best part is that it fits perfectly with everything we've been watching unfold over the last 2 weeks. The narrative was getting louder. The Warriors were 7-6, inconsistent, sloppy on offense, vulnerable on defense, and desperately needing a reliable wing who plays tough, disciplined, no-nonsense basketball. Someone who doesn't hunt shots, doesn't chase stats, doesn't get lost in personal agendas like Draymond Green publicly warned about. They needed someone who could simply fill gaps, lock down elite scorers, defend with intelligence, and hit open shots created by Steph's gravity and Jimmy Butler's physicality. So today, I bring you this. Herb Jones is exactly that player. And this move signals that the Golden State front office isn't just watching the problems unfold, they're addressing them head on. Before we dive into why Herb Jones instantly changes the Warriors' identity, let's rewind a bit and set the stage the right way. This Warriors team entered the 2025-26 season truly believing, that last year's playoff run could have ended very differently if Curry hadn't pulled his hamstring in the second round and if Jimmy Butler hadn't fallen hard on his tailbone. Golden State genuinely thought they had a roster built to reach the Western Conference Finals. They thought they had found the perfect formula. The explosive genius of Curry, the defensive leadership of Draymond Green, the two-way ferocity of Jimmy Butler, and just enough depth from players like Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, Buddy Hield, and Al Horford to pull everything together. But this season, the formula hasn't clicked, at least not consistently. They started strong, beating the Lakers and Nuggets, but then dropped games they had no business losing, including to a Pacers team missing half its rotation and a Bucks team missing Giannis. Curry battled an illness that took him out for multiple games, the offense stalled into long stretches of bad spacing and tougher shots, and the defense lost that edge they showed after last season's All-Star break. Then came the game against the Spurs, and let me tell you, that game showed us two things. One, Steph Curry is still the heartbeat of this franchise, the sun in the Warriors solar system, as Steve Kerr said. And two, Draymond Green is still the emotional compass of this team, the engine, the accountability, the voice that still commands the room. Draymond called them out after the OKC loss. He said what needed to be said. He said there were personal agendas creeping in, and everyone knew exactly what he meant without him having to name names. That's leadership. That's championship DNA. And the very next night, Steph led the Warriors back from a 9-point deficit with 22 points in the third quarter, 46 overall, playing like a man who refused to let the narrative spiral. Draymond shut down Victor Wembanyama one-on-one, navigating mismatches, reading screens, forcing turnovers, contesting everything. He was vintage Draymond Green. So the win in San Antonio was important. It restored energy, it restored urgency, it restored belief. But wins alone don't fix structural weaknesses, and that's where the Herb Jones trade comes in. Herb Jones is not a superstar, but he is one of the most respected 3-and-D wings in the entire NBA. Coaches rave about him, scouts rave about him, analytics love him. And for a team like Golden State that has struggled with point-of-attack defense, consistency on the perimeter, and bench units collapsing every time Curry sits, Herb Jones might be the most important role-player acquisition since the Warriors brought in Andre Iguodala back in 2013. Let's be real here. Jonathan Kuminga has been inconsistent. His early season numbers look solid, but the turnovers, especially in Curry-less lineups, were killing the Warriors. And when you combine that with Jimmy Butler's age and the physical toll of his style, Golden State needed another perimeter defender who could ease that burden without needing the ball. Herb Jones is exactly that. He defends the best player every night. He's long, smart, disciplined, and one of the best help defenders in the league. And the one weakness he had, three-point shooting, isn't a weakness anymore. He's hitting 44% from deep this year. He's become a reliable catch-and-shoot threat. That fits perfectly with Curry. That fits perfectly with Butler. That fits perfectly with the ball movement Kerr demands. But beyond the fit, beyond the numbers, beyond the analytics, here's the real reason the Warriors made this move. They still believe in this core. They believe Curry can still win at the highest level. They believe Draymond can still anchor the defense. They believe Jimmy Butler can still be a postseason weapon. And the addition of Herb Jones is a loud signal that the Golden State Warriors aren't playing for mediocrity. They are playing for championships. Jones gives them the versatility they lacked. He gives them a defender capable of taking on Luka, Tatum, Jamal Murray, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, James Harden, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a playoff series. He frees up Draymond and Butler from the most grueling matchups. He stabilizes second units when Curry sits, and he doesn't disrupt the offense by forcing anything he shouldn't. This is the perfect Warriors player, the perfect Warriors role, the perfect Warriors DNA, and honestly, the perfect Warriors moment. Because this season is not slipping away. This season is being recalibrated, rebuilt, reinforced. And now let's talk about the big story. Curry and Draymond are still leading this team at an elite level. The numbers don't lie. Curry's averaging 27 a night at 37 years old, playing some of the smartest basketball of his career, and Draymond is still one of the best defensive players in the league, one of the best screen navigators, one of the best communicators, one of the best disruptors. The Warriors needed help. Herb Jones is help. Herb Jones is fresh legs. Herb Jones is defensive identity. Herb Jones is the exact type of player that championship teams lean on in critical moments. And Warriors fans, let me tell you this. The front office does not make this move unless they believe that Steph Curry still has another deep playoff run in him. They don't make this move unless this team can still contend. They don't make this move unless the window is still open. And thanks to Herb Jones, that window just got a little wider. The Warriors needed toughness. They needed discipline. They needed length. They needed defense. They needed someone who plays Warriors basketball without needing Warriors touches. And today, they got exactly that. So Warriors Nation, I want to hear from you. Was this the right move? Does Herb Jones make the Warriors contenders again? Did the front office make the right call in trading Moses Moody? And how big of an impact do you expect Herb Jones to have alongside Curry, Butler, and Draymond? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you believe the Warriors are back on track. And don't forget to subscribe to Warriors Nation News for daily updates, reactions, analysis, and everything Golden State Warriors. This season is far from over. In fact, it might be just beginning.